וידוע שהוא פרסם, הוא כתב שמי שילמד ומי שישתדל בהדפסה של זה, הוא בירך אותו בכל הברוכה. הם שואלים האם בשביל לזכות לברוכה הזאת צריך ללמוד כל יום, או מספיק פעם או פעמיים בשבוע?
פעמיים בשבוע.
האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
כן.
מה?
כן.
Erev Tov and good evening, everyone. We're in the Zera Shimshon. We have a double Parsha coming up on Shabbos of Parsha Kedoshim. We're going to look at the Zera Shimshon on Parsha Kedoshim, and this is Os Gimel, section 3. Zera Shimshon, Parsha Kedoshim, Os Gimel. Let us take a look first at the pasuk that the Zera Shimshon is going to focus on. It's near the beginning of the Parsha of Parsha Kedoshim. It's Perek Yud Tes. In Sefer Vayikra pasuk Tes Zayin, and the pasuk says, "Lo selech Rachel be'amecha," do not go as a gossip mongerer, a gossip spreader be'amecha in your nation or in your people. Lo sa'amod al dam re'echa, do not stand on the blood of your fellow. Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. And so now let's jump right into the Zera Shimshon's comments. Pasuk. There's a pasuk which states in our parsha which states, "Lo selech Rachel be'amecha," as we just read and translated, do not go as a gossip monger amongst your people. "Lo samod al dam re'echa," don't stand on the blood of your fellow, v'chule, etc. So the Zera Shimshon is going to pose 3 questions. Number 1, tzorich tam. We need a reason. Lama mitchila amar amecha ula besof amar re'echa. Why in the beginning of this pasuk does it start with the collective, we're talking about the whole nation, the whole people? It said, "Do not go as a gossiper amongst your people or your nation." But at the end of the pasuk, it switched to the singular and said, "Do not stand on the blood of your fellow," a single individual. So why the switch from amecha to re'echa, from your people to your fellow individual, your fellow person? That's point number 1, or question number 1. Ve'od, and another thing we need to examine, tzarich levayer, we need to clarify, kesher ha'pasuk, the connection in the pasuk, disamich le, that it puts near the words, lo selech rachel be'amecha, right after that it goes right into the words, lo samod al dam re'echa. Right? So the Zera Shimshon is saying the 2 different halves of the pasuk, or at least the first part of the pasuk and the middle part of the pasuk, don't seem to fit together in any obvious or apparent way. Do not go as a gossiper amongst your people, and then do not stand on the blood of your fellow. What's the connection between those 2 things, those 2 parts of the pasuk? Umay itzterichacha, and now the third point, what do we need? What is the need here, Lomar, for the pasuk to say at the end, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem? What are those words needed for at the end of this particular pasuk? So those are the 3 issues that the Zera Shimshon wants to clarify. So he begins, Umilvad Pirish Rashi. Besides for what Rashi explains, Yesh Lomar, we can say, the Isa b'Shulchan Aruch, that it states in Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat, Osir Limsor Yisrael Biyad Goy, it is forbidden to turn over a Jewish person into the hands of the non-Jews, Bein Begufo, Bein Bimamono, whether or not it is handing over him physically, or whether or not it is handing over his money or his property, all of that would be forbidden to do. Ve'afilu ha'yerosha uvalaveros, and even if this person who you are handing over either again himself or his property to non-Jews, even if he's a wicked person and a transgressor, a person who transgresses the mitzvos of the Torah, nonetheless you can't hand him over. Ve'afilu ha'yametzar lo umitzaro. And even more, even if this person is someone who is causing you problems and troubling you and making your life difficult, you still can't hand him over to the non-Jews. This is a quote from Shulchan Aruch, again, Hoshen Mishpat, and you can see Siman Shin Pei Ches in Hoshen Mishpat. Ad Kan Lashona, the Zera Shimshon says, until here is a quote from the Shulchan Aruch. V'yolif le mehahi de Mar Ukva. And the Shulchan Aruch learned this out from an incident that is recorded in Meseches Gittin about Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva was the Reish Galusa, the exilarch. This means he held the top position amongst the Jewish people in Bavel at the time. In his time, during his time, he had reached the high point in his career of being appointed Reish Galusa, the head of the exile. And there's an incident brought in the Gemara in Gittin about him. The Sholach le Rebbe Lozer. He sent a message to Rebbe Lozer. Rebbe Lozer was in Eretz Yisrael. So the Reish Galusa Mar Ukva in Bavel sends a message to Rebbe Lozer in Eretz Yisrael. And he says, B'nei Adam ha'omdim alai, there are people who are standing on me, which over there you can see in that Gemara means they are harassing me, they're bothering me, they're troubling me. Ubiyadi lemosram lemalchus, and it is in my capacity, it's in my ability to hand them over to the non-Jewish authorities. Mahu, what is the halacha? Meaning that Mar Ukva sent this question to Rebbe Lozer saying, and these people who were bothering him and making his life extremely difficult were Jews. So he said, there are these Jewish people who are unreasonably and unlawfully and against the halacha, bothering me, harassing me, and I could give them over. I could turn them over to the non-Jewish authorities, but I'm asking a shaila: is that permissible? Amar le. So Rebbe Lozer said back, Dom la Hashem v'hischolel lo. This is a quote from a pasuk in Tehillim, which means, Dom la Hashem, be silent to Hashem, v'hischolel lo, and wait for him. Meaning the answer that Rebbe Lozer gave was, don't take any action, don't turn these people over to the authorities, wait for Hashem and be silent, and Hashem will take care of everything. As Rebbe Lozer's answer continues, V'hu yapilam lefonecha chalolim, and he will make them fall in front of you as corpses, which of course is a play on the word from the pasuk in Tehillim, v'hischolel lo. In the pasuk, the word meant and wait patiently for Hashem. But Rebbe Lozer said you could see there the hint to chalolim, corpses. These people who are bothering you, Hashem will take care of the problem, even if it requires for Hashem to take them out of this world. But whatever it requires, trust in Hashem. And if you look in the Gemara over there, Rebbe Lozer also says, get early to the Beis Medrash, stay late in the Beis Medrash, davening and learning, and this problem Hashem will take care of this problem. It'll resolve itself. Do not turn them over to the authorities. So the Zera Shimshon points out that the basis for the ruling in the Shulchan Aruch that we saw about not handing over a person, even if he's a rasha, even if he's a wicked person, and even if he's harassing you and bothering you, not giving him over to the non-Jewish authorities, the fact that the Shulchan Aruch said that is usher comes from this Gemara. Its source is this Gemara in Maseches Gittin about the Rebbe Lozer's answer to Mar Ukva. Now the Zera Shimshon continues. V'od sham, and there is more information there in the Siman and Shulchan Aruch. Kol ha-moser hatzibor u'mitza'aron. If someone is giving over from members of the tzibor their property or even the people themselves to the non-Jewish authorities, u'mitza'aron, and he's causing great suffering to the community, mutar lemosro biyad nachri, then it becomes permissible to hand such a person over to the non-Jewish authorities. And now let's go to the top of the second column. Lehakoso uleyasro, to have him be beaten, uleyasro, and to have him have musar, and to be punished basically so that he can learn his lesson. Aval mipnei tsar yochid osur lemosro ad kan l'shono. But if this person is only causing trouble and suffering to a single individual, then it is forbidden to hand him over to the non-Jewish authorities, ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat. So we see the Zera Shimshon has brought us two statements from this section of Choshen Mishpat. The first part said it is forbidden to give over a person to the non-Jewish authorities, even if he's a Russia and even if he's causing an individual problems and suffering. Can't give him over. However, the Shulchan Aruch continues and says, if a person is causing problems and suffering to the whole community, to the tzibor, to the rabbim, then it is permissible to give him over to the non-Jewish authorities, but that's only because he's doing this for the community, for the group, not someone who's causing. You can't give over someone who's causing problems for an individual. Continuing, umishum hachi, because of this, mitchila his here hakosim. In the beginning, now the Zera Shimshon is going back to the pasuk that he started with and on which he posed his three questions. From the beginning of the pasuk warned, al lo selech rochel be'amecha. Do not go as a gossip mongerer amongst your people. And that's the plural form in terms of the tzibor, the whole community, the whole nation. Dimashma, and the pasuk implies, the language of the pasuk implies, be'ose mase amcha, that when are we not allowed to handle, to be a gossip mongerer and tell bad reports about a person? That's if he acts faithfully, he follows the traditions and the actions of Amcha, of your nation, of your people. Keda Amrinon, as we say in Baba Metzia, Al V'nosi be'amcha lo so'or. The Gemara over there brings down this pasuk that comes from Shmos, where it says, a prince in your people you should not curse. And the Gemara over there, according to Rava, there's a machlokas Abai and Rava, but Rava says that pasuk means you don't curse the nasi if he is acting like one of the people. He is carrying on Jewish traditions and acting like an authentic Jewish person, then you can't curse him. However, if he's not doing so, if he's not acting and following Jewish traditions and law, then it is permissible to curse him, according to Rava in that Gemara. So the Zera Shimshon says we can apply the same rule over here. Ha, behold, im eino ose mase amcha, if this slanderer, this gossip mongerer, is not someone who is upholding the traditions of the people, mutter lemosro biyad goy, then it would be permissible to hand him over to the non-Jews. But now listen carefully, because the Zera Shimshon qualifies this. Aval kol zehu dafko kishem moser o mitzar es harabim. All of this that we've been talking about in the first half of this paragraph is dealing with someone who is causing tsar and suffering to the whole tzibor, to the whole town, to the whole group, to a group of people, and is giving over and reporting them to the non-Jewish authorities. Such a person you can give over to the non-Jewish authorities to deal with. Aval im moser o mitzar la'adam echad levado. But if this person is only giving over the property or disturbing or harassing or causing suffering to one individual, eino mutter lemosro, it is not permissible to give him over. V'zehu lo samod al dam reyecha, and this is what the Torah is hinting to or alluding to in the second part of the pasuk, where it says, "Don't stand on the blood of your fellow," and it switches to the singular form, reyecha dafka. It talks about your fellow individual, your fellow person, one person. Dehainu nezek yochid, which means the Torah at that point in the pasuk is talking about damages that were done to one individual. So according to the Zera Shimshon, and we'll come back to this in a moment, the Zera Shimshon is saying that the first part of the pasuk, lo selech rachel be'amecha, is talking about a person who is causing suffering to the entire people or to a large group of people, and that person you can tell Lashon Hara about. You can give him over to the authorities to deal with. However, the second part of the pasuk that says al tamod al dam reyecha, an individual person, you can't give him over. Elamai yesh locha lasos. So what should you do with a person who's bad news, but he happens to be focusing all his maliciousness on only one person right now, probably hasn't yet gotten around to causing problems for everyone yet? What should you do? Dom lashem v'hischolel lo, as the Gemara said, quoting this pasuk in Tehillim, be quiet and trust in Hashem, wait for Hashem to deal with it. V'zehu shesiyim hakosav, and this is exactly what it says at the end of our pasuk, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem, ne'emon li parah, I can be trusted to punish people who deserve punishment. So let's pause here because the Zera Shimshon answered all three of his questions in this paragraph. So let's just take a look at what the Zera Shimshon has explained for us. Number one, he said, focus on the fact that the first part of the pasuk in the words Lo selech rachel bi'amecha is talking about a collective, the people, the nations, talking about the tzibor, talking about many people. And in that part of the pasuk, it's teaching us that the person is causing trouble and suffering to the nation as a whole, then he can be turned over to the non-Jewish authorities. However, if a person is only causing problems for an individual, as that's dealt with in the second part of the pasuk, al damod lo samod al dam re'echa, don't stand on the blood of your single individual, a friend, and that's telling you don't give over to the non-Jewish authorities in any circumstances, someone who is only causing a problem for one member of the community. And then the question becomes, well, even that is bad and has to be stopped. What should we do? Pasuk ends, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem, and rely on me to deal with it, which of course is an exact reflection of which reflects the teaching from Rebbe Lazar's answer to Mar Ukva in the Gemara Masechta Gittin that the Zera Shimshon brought down earlier. Now let's continue. Ve'osi shapir nami, and it now becomes clear or becomes correct. Also, Mashe Matzinu, what we find in the pasuk, the afke kra inyan harachilus beloshen halicha. The Torah brings out this issue of gossiping using a language of walking or going. Lo selech rachil be'amecha. Don't walk around as a gossip mongerer. So the Zera Shimshon says, now we can understand what this is talking about. Milvad mashipirish Rashi, in addition to what Rashi explained, O yesh lomar, we can say, according to our own approach, the Zera Shimshon says, sheba lirmos, that the Torah is coming to hint, she'eno chayo ve'eno nikro rasha, a person is not obligated for the damages caused and is not called a rasha, a wicked person, rak kisheholech hu me'atzmo limsor chavero. Only when he goes at his own volition, he himself goes under his own power to give over his friend. Then a person is considered a moser and someone who is chayav for any damages he caused. In other words, if he goes to the non-Jewish authorities and reports on another person and gets the person in trouble or gets the person's property confiscated, then he's going to be liable for the damages caused to the other person. But if he was forced, he was coerced into doing this, even though it is still considered something forbidden to do, Eino chayav. He's not obligated, he's not liable to pay for any of the damages if he was coerced into doing it. Meaning, if the authorities come to a person and they force him on threat of death or threat on serious bodily harm, they force him to give information about another Jew, even though it's still usher to do so. If he gives up the information in those circumstances, he's not obligated to pay for the damages because he was coerced into doing it. And look back in that same Siman in Choshen Mishpat and Shulchan Aruch that we looked at before, and you'll see that that point is made. And if the Torah had said, Lo seragil be'amecha, let's say the Torah had left out the word lo selech, and it left out selech, don't go do this, but it had just said, don't tell tales amongst your people, uchiyotze, and similar type wording below Lashon Halicha, and if the Torah had not used the language of going to do it, lo seilech, don't go and do this, hayisi omer, I would have said, shechayev al kol panim, that a person is chayev in all situations, he's chayev no matter what, on the damage that is done to another person, even if he was coerced by the authorities into giving the information. So the Zera Shimshon says, since that would not be an accurate representation of what the Torah wanted to teach, it would not tell us really the real halacha if it didn't say lo seilech. That's why the Torah dafka said lo seilech rachil. Don't go, meaning don't go of your own volition and turn over your friend and cause to the authorities and cause damages and problems for him. However, if you don't go on your own volition, you're coerced into doing it, then you're not chayav, you're not liable to pay for any damages that your friend suffers because of your actions. Now the Zera Shimshon continues. Ubozeh yuvon, and with this, with everything we've explained, we can understand my diarim b'perek ches de Baba Kama, what it says in the Gemara in the 8th parak and Meseches Baba Kama. Ahu Gavra, there was a man, the Gemara tells the following story, there was a person, Deboy Achvuye, he wanted to point out, Ativna de Chavre, the teven, the straw of his friend, meaning there was a person, and for reasons which are unclear, he wanted to go to the non-Jewish authorities and say to them, another Jew, my friend, this other Jew has a large collection of straw, and he wanted to inform the authorities, and the situation was such that the authorities were going to come and confiscate the teven, confiscate the other Jewish person's straw. Also, Lakame de Rav. This man came to Rav to ask him, would it be okay? Omar le lo sechave, lo sechave. So Rav said to him, don't point it out, don't point it out, right? He said it 2 times to the man. You're coming to ask me a shaila, and apparently, again, the man had reasons why he thought it would be okay, so he explained them to Rav, and Rav said, it's not okay. Don't tell the non-Jewish authorities. Do not tell the non-Jewish authorities where this man's straw is located. Amar le, and the man said back with tremendous audacity and chutzpah, machavina umachavina, I will point it out, I will point it out, meaning I will show the non-Jewish authorities where the straw is. So he made it clear he was not going to listen to Rav's advice. So putting aside what happened in the Gemara, which just to mention now, and I'll come back to it, is that the man met a very untimely end right after this incident. But putting that aside, the Zera Shimshon says, Vikosha, we have a difficulty with this Gemara. Lama koflu lishona. Why did both Rav and this man, this bad man, repeat their words? Why did Rav say, don't show the non-Jewish authorities, don't show the non-Jewish authorities? And why did the man respond to Rav and say, I will show the non-Jewish authorities, I will show the non-Jewish authorities? Why is everyone repeating themselves? And we can say that it states in the Shulchan Aruch, in the same siman that we've been looking at, in Choshen Mishpat, when do we say that a person is liable for pointing out the property of a neighbor to the non-Jewish authorities? If the person who turned the guy over or the property over of his friend showed it to them by himself, from his own volition. Aval im ansuhu akum. But if the non-Jewish authorities forced and coerced him laharos to show where this other person's property was, vehera, and then he showed it to them under duress, hareze poter mitashlum, and then this person is exempt from paying any damages. V'lochein, and therefore, Amar le Rav in the Gemara that we just quoted from Baba Kama said to the man, lo sachve, do not point it out below ones if they don't force you to. Ve'afilu ya'ansucha laharos, and even if the non-Jewish authorities force you to point it out, lo sechave, don't point it out. Do your best to not point it out. Rav, his thinking was, since you came to me to ask me what the halacha is, I'm telling you what the halacha is, that you're not allowed to point it out no matter what. even though if the authorities force you to show it to them, it's true you will be exempt from paying any damage for that. Isura miha ise. Nonetheless, there is a prohibition for doing so. So when Rav repeated himself and he said, don't show them, the Zera Shimshon says what Rav meant was, don't show them if they coerce you, and don't show them certainly if they don't coerce you. Do not show them under any circumstances. V'hu heishiv lo. And the man responded to Rav, ba'azus panim, with tremendous chutzpah, machavina umachavina. I'll show them and I'll show them. Im ya'ansuni, if they coerce me, I'm going to show them. Va'afilu im lo ya'ansuni. And even if they do not coerce me, I will still show them. So just to circle back for a moment to what the Gemara tells us about the end of this Maisa, the end of this incident with Rav and this man who was committed to turning over his friend's property to the non-Jewish authorities, the Gemara says Rav Kahana witnessed this interchange, and he immediately stood up and struck the man on the back of his neck and broke his neck and killed him. Then the Gemara goes on to say that Rav Kahana was justified in killing this man. Nonetheless, Rav Kahana, just as an aside, had to leave Bavel and travel to Eretz Yisrael because the authorities in Bavel would not have looked kindly on this murder that they would have viewed as a unjustifiable homicide. But nonetheless, according to the Chazal, they say Rav Kahana was justified in killing this man because this man was considered a rodef, a pursuer. In what way was he a rodef, a pursuer? By telling the non-Jewish authorities where this man's property, his friend's, his neighbor's property was, the non-Jewish authorities would have been very likely to come in. And if this man showed any resistance or any hesitation in giving up his property, they would have killed him. So you have a man saying, I don't care what anyone tells me, I'm going to tell the non-Jewish authorities where this man is hiding all of his property. That is like a rodef, the Gemara says, because the non-Jewish authorities were known not just for coming and taking property, but for coming and killing the owner to get all of his property and to be able to confiscate it. So he's a rodef, and as a rodef, he could be put to death, he could be killed. And so that is what happened in the end of that Gemara. But going back, just circling back now to quickly recap, the Zera Shimshon brought in a pasuk from our Parsha in Kedoshim, Lo selech rochel be'amecha, don't go as a talebearer amongst your nation. And he showed us how the pasuk needs to be divided into three parts. The first part of the pasuk is talking about when we're dealing with someone who is causing tremendous suffering and problems for the Am, for the nation, for the group, for the Rabbim. And then the second part of the pasuk is talking about someone who is only causing problems for an individual. You can turn over the person, the miscreant in the first case. We're not allowed to turn over the miscreant in the second case. So what do we do? Then the third part of the pasuk says, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. Leave it to me to deal with, Hashem says, and I'll take care of it, just like the Gemara in Gittin taught us. Yasher koach to everyone for participating in this week's learning of the Zera Shimshon, and Be'ezus Hashem we'll learn again the Zera Shimshon's commentary on next week's Parsha, God willing, together.